Hi everyone, my name is Makoto Shibutani, and in this video, I want to discuss the RBT study materials. I know many of you are very busy and you may not have time to sit down and watch the video to learn the materials. So in this video, I'm not going to show you any video clips or visuals. That means that you can just listen to this while you're on the bus or train or in the car or maybe cooking or shopping, right? I'll try to give you as many scenarios and examples as possible so that it may be easier for you to understand the ABA concept. In the RBT task list, there are tasks from A through F, and I want to explain the task A and B in this video. And then the future videos should include the rest of the tasks. So let's get it started with the task A, which is the measurement. Well, first of all, I want to talk about the behavior. So behavior is everything people do. Here, we are not just talking about like prompt behavior, but it involves the positive behavior as well. And in ABA, we want to focus on studying behavior that is observable and measurable. Again, we want to focus on studying behavior that is observable and measurable. Alright? Well, some people may say, like, hey, I saw that he was upset or he was frustrated, right? And then I'm like, well, did you really see that he was upset or frustrated? And then they go like, no, I can feel it. I can feel that he's upset. And then I go, but that's not quite based on ABA, you know? So see, the feeling upset, frustrated, sad, or happy is something that is happening in their mind, right? You can't really see those unless you have some type of special power, like psychic or something, right? So screaming is a behavior because you can hear it, right? Now clapping hands is also a behavior as you can see it and you can hear it. But feeling tired or frustrated is not observable. So these are not our primary focus. Okay? Now, let's talk about what we call operational definition. It is specifically describing what the behavior looks like. Again, the operational definition is specifically describing what the behavior looks like. So as an example, so why don't I operationally define a tantrum, okay? I'll start maybe with a bad example, bad operational definition. A tantrum is being upset. Here, again, I'm using the emotion, right? Which is not observable. In this definition, some people may say like, oh yeah, he's upset. Or the others go like, no, in my eyes, he's not upset. So this definition will confuse many people. Instead, maybe you can say a tantrum is defined as screaming that can be heard from 20 feet away for at least 10 seconds. That sounds more specific, right? In ABA, we want to define the behavior in the observable term. Now, the behavior must be measurable, so that means that we need to know when the behavior starts and ends. So let's use the tantrum again. When does it start? So it starts when the behavior meets the operational definition. Now, when does it end? Well, we can say something like when the behavior stops for at least 1 minute. Then we can measure the behavior like how long the tantrum occurs or how many times we observe it, okay? Alright, so now we're moving to what we call continuous measurement and discontinuous measurement, okay? We're gonna start with continuous measurement first. So continuous measurement includes frequency, duration, rate, response latency, and inter-response time. Okay, so let's start with the easy one, which is the frequency. So as you may hear this term frequency here and there, this is how many times that the behavior occurs. Okay, so for example, raising hand 5 times, or throwing objects 2 times, or maybe using profanity 10 times. Right? You can count. That's frequency. And duration is another easy one. So it is the time length of behavior. So for example, the tantrum occurred for 10 minutes, or she refused to do homework for 20 minutes, or maybe he worked on homework for 30 minutes. So you can see the time length of behavior. That's duration. Okay. How about rate? Let's say that you have a new boss, and then your coworker tells you that this new boss yells 2 times. Okay? And then you're like, okay, well, just 2 times? Well, I can handle that, right? But then you find out like, well, it is 2 times per minute. Like you're like, whoa, wait, what? 2 times a minute? And then that means it is like, 120 times per hour. And then you go like, oh, well, you know what? I quit. So the rate shows how often the behavior happens per minute, or per hour, per day, or per month. Alright? Now, here's the response latency. So response latency is the time between the SD and the response. You may be like, what is an SD? SD is a discriminative stimulus. Again, SD is a discriminative stimulus, and it evokes the behavior. So for example, mom says, time for dinner, and it takes 5 minutes for her son to come to the table. Here, mom saying time for dinner is the SD, and the behavior is for her son to come to the table. Since it's taking 5 minutes, the response latency is 5 minutes. Or how about this? In a marathon, you say, ready, set, go, and it takes 3 seconds for kids to start running. The SD is you saying, ready, set, go, and the behavior is the kids starting running. Since it's taking 3 seconds, the response latency is 3 seconds. So the response latency is the time it takes to start the behavior. And sometimes we just call this latency. Alright, now, why collect the response latency? It is important to learn appropriate time length for a certain behavior to initiate. So, for example, let's say that you want to use an elevator, right? Now the door opens, but you don't get in on time, and then the door closes. And then you're like, oh man, I missed the elevator, right? Or how about this? When you tell your partner, I love you, right? And then 10 seconds later, you hear me too. And they're like, wait, what was that gap, right? So teaching appropriate response latency can be important. Okay, now let's talk about inter-response time, or we call this IRT. It is the time between 2 separate episodes of behavior. Again, let me repeat. So the inter-response time is the time between 2 separate episodes of behavior. Since I've been using a tantrum as an example, let's use it again here. Alright? So listen very carefully. A boy starts crying at 1 p.m. He stops crying at 2 p.m. He starts crying again at 4 p.m. You got it? So you see that there are 2 episodes of a tantrum here. To measure inter-response time, you want to look at the end of the first episode and the beginning of the second episode. So since he stopped crying at 2 p.m. and started crying again at 4 p.m., the inter-response time is 2 hours. Okay? Now, why do we collect inter-response time? Well, it tells us like a pattern of behavior and how often you may observe this behavior. The longer the RLT is, the less you may see this behavior. If the RLT is 5 years, that means it might have just happened, but the last time it happened was 5 years ago. And the shorter the IRT is, the more you may see it. So now, if the IRT is 5 minutes, that means that you just saw this behavior, and this happened 5 minutes ago. Okay? Now, we are moving to discontinuous measurement. And this measurement may be a little bit more complicated than the continuous measurement. So please pay close attention to my explanation, alright? In discontinuous measurement, there are whole interval recording, partial interval recording, and momentary time sampling. Alright, are you still with me? Let me repeat this one more time, okay? So in discontinuous measurement, there are whole interval recording, partial interval recording, and momentary time sampling. Okay, I'll try to explain each one of them in a way that people can understand, alright? I know it can sound a little bit complicated. Okay, well, first of all, these recording methods use intervals. So if you are observing your client for 10 minutes, and then you may separate each minute as an interval. And in each interval, we record whether the behavior has occurred or not with plus and minus. Okay? It is important to remember that we are not putting the frequency of behavior in discontinuous measurement. So it's not about how many times that the behavior happened, but it's about knowing whether the behavior was observed or not in each interval. Okay, so let's start with the whole interval recording. So in whole interval recording, the behavior must occur for the entire duration of the interval. Let me repeat. In whole interval recording, the behavior must occur for the entire duration of the interval. So for example, let's say that the behavior is a child doing homework, okay? And then we are observing for 30 minutes. As we need to set the intervals, we can set maybe 10 3-minute intervals, okay? So every interval is 3 minutes. And then on a piece of paper, we can draw like 10 boxes, and then each box represents the interval. Now, the first interval, the kid is doing homework for the entire 3 minutes. And then you put plus, alright? He's doing it. The second interval, he's stretching his arms and spinning the chair for like 20 seconds, alright? Now, you're like, he's not doing the entire interval, so you put minus. The third interval, he's doing homework for the entire 3 minutes, so again, you put plus. The fourth interval, maybe he's looking out the window for a few seconds, and then you put minus. Let's say after observing for 30 minutes and then the child gets 6 out of 10, so which is 60%, right? Maybe the kid goes like, wait, I was stretching my arms, why are you putting minus? Right? Or maybe he goes, I was looking out the window just for a few seconds, why are you putting minus? Right? And then you go, well, sorry, but this is a whole interval recording, so you must be doing the homework throughout the interval. And then the kid is like, that's too cruel. Like, how can you put like 60%? I would say that I was doing it for about like 90% or 95%, right? Well, that might be true. 60% may seem a lot lower than the actual occurrence. So, the whole interval recording is known to underestimate the actual occurrence of behavior. Right? And because you want the behavior to occur for the entire duration, you often use whole interval recording for a desired behavior or the behavior that you want to increase. Now, let's talk about partial interval recording. In partial interval recording, we mark plus when the behavior is observed at any time during the interval. Okay, even for 1 second. All right, let me repeat. Okay, so in partial interval recording, we mark plus when the behavior is observed at any time during the interval. So how about the example with looking at the cell phone? Okay, so we are recording the kid looking at the cell phone. So maybe it's a classroom setting or something. We are observing this for 10 minutes and then each interval is 1 minute. That means that we create 10 boxes on a piece of paper and then each box represents the interval, 1 minute interval, right? The first interval, maybe the kid is not looking at the cell phone at all. So you put minus. The second interval, the kid is using the cell phone for 30 seconds. Now you put plus. The third interval, the kid is looking at the cell phone for 1 second. But you still put plus, right? Because it's like at any time. So for 1 second, you still have to put plus. And then over the observation, like let's say that the kid gets 8 out of 10, which is 80%. And then the kid goes like, what? I just saw the phone for 1 second. You can't mark it plus? And then you go, sorry, but this is a partial interval recording. So even if it happens for 1 second, I still have to mark it plus. And then the kid goes, this cannot be 80%. I was using it for a lot less, maybe like 5% or 10%. Well, it's not 5% or 10%, but 80%. So as you can see, the partial interval recording tends to overestimate the actual occurrences of behavior. Because you don't want the behavior to occur even for a short time, this recording is used for problem behavior or the behavior that you want to decrease. Okay, now here's the last type of discontinuous measurement, momentary time sampling. In momentary time sampling, we mark as the behavior has occurred when the behavior is observed at the end of the interval. Alright, let me repeat. Momentary time sampling, we mark as the behavior has occurred when the behavior is observed at the end of the interval. So let's say that the behavior is cleaning the bedroom. Alright? And let's say that we have a 15-minute observation with 5-minute intervals. Okay? 15-minute observation with 5-minute intervals. So, like how we did before, we create 10 boxes on paper, and then each box represents the interval. Now, you may set the alarm that beeps every 5 minutes so that you know when the interval ends. Then you go check if the kid is cleaning the room only at the end of the interval or maybe when the alarm goes off. Now, the first interval, it's been 5 minutes and then I check. Yes, he is cleaning the room. So I put plus. The second interval, it's been 5 minutes. I go check. Yes, he's cleaning the room. I put plus again. The third interval, I check. And, oh wait, he's playing with a toy, right? So I put minus. The kid may say like, wait, I was cleaning until you showed up, right? I was just playing for 5 seconds. But you're like, well, you weren't when I checked. So when it is the end of the interval, and then I check and I mark plus or a minus, okay? As you can see, in momentary time sampling, you don't have to be in the environment for the entire time. So you may be cooking or washing a car or doing something else, right? And then you can check the individual's behavior at the end of the interval. While using these interval recording methods, people may say that the measurement is not accurate, right? But that's just how they are measured. So like I said, the whole interval recording tends to underestimate and partial interval recording tends to overestimate the actual occurrence of behavior. And then this phenomenon is called the artifact. Artifact, it's ARTIFACT, artifact. Okay. Now we are moving on and talk about permanent product. Okay, in permanent product, we are focusing on the result of a behavior. Okay, for some behaviors, you may not need to observe the individual the entire time that they are engaged in behavior. So let's say that the teacher gives their students homework. And then they don't need to follow students home and check if they're doing homework. Well, that would be scary. So they check homework the following day. Or how about parents? They tell their kids to take out the trash. And then they check the trash cans later. So we can look at the result of the behavior. The advantage of the permanent product is that you can save your time. Well, you can do something else while they are engaged in behavior or the task, right? But the disadvantage is that you don't know what is happening while they are completing the task. So they may be copying their friends' homework, or they may be telling their younger siblings to take out the trash, right? It is important to remember that some behaviors are not suited for permanent product. For example, like practicing push-ups 50 times or reading a book for 30 minutes, right? They may tell you that they read the book for 30 minutes, but where's the proof, right? There won't be any proof after they are done. So if you are using permanent product, make sure that you can actually see the result. So maybe I can share my personal story. One time my daughter's room was pretty messy, and so I decided to use a permanent product. I told her to clean the room, and then I would check her room every day at 9 p.m. So I checked every day, right? And then she actually did pretty well. The room was clean every day, and so that's permanent product, right? I was checking the result every day. And then I was quite impressed that she kept it clean, right? But one day I started questioning, like, wait, it's too clean. Where are all the toys that she had? And then I opened the closet and all toys started falling out on me. So basically she kept shoving the toys in her closet, and then she was hoping that I didn't find it out. Well, I did, and then I had to have a talk with her. So what I could do was redefining cleaning the room and maybe including the closet, right? That's just a side story. Anyway, next I want to talk about the data collection. In ABA, data is very, very important. Data makes ABA science, and without data, it is subjective opinion. We talked about different types of measurement like frequency, duration, latency, whole interval recording, right? So we always take data and analyze it so that we can find out if our client is making progress or not. And then one thing that we may want to remember though, when collecting data for a long time, like weeks and months, we may start recognizing, like, wait, am I supposed to count this as a tantrum? Right? We call this observer drift. When we misunderstand the way we should collect behavior data, observer drift can happen. So for example, the first day, your supervisor tells you, like, okay, a tantrum. A tantrum is defined as crying with tears for at least 5 minutes. Okay? And then you start collecting data that way. And then a few weeks later, you see your clients yelling for 10 minutes. Well, you don't see tears, but you start thinking, oh, this is a tantrum. And then you collect data as a tantrum. And then again, a few weeks later, you see your client yelling for 1 minute. Well, in the initial definition, I said 5 minutes, right? But now this client is yelling for 1 minute, and then you consider it as a tantrum. Now the supervisor sees the data and goes, oh my gosh, his behavior is increasing so much. Well, it's not actually increasing, but because of the skewed data that you're collecting, there is observer drift. To avoid observer drift, we need to regularly check the operational definition of behavior and if our data collection is accurate with the supervisor. Okay, now we can move to the task B, which is an assessment. Okay, the major assessment that we talk here are the preference assessment and functional behavior assessment. Let's talk about preference assessment first. As it says preference, it is studying the preference of the individual. It is important to know that their preferences, so that we can motivate them or to complete the task, or we can deliver them to improve the quality of their lives. And then there are 3 ways to conduct a preference assessment: interview, free operand, and trial base. Again, interview, free operand, and trial base. In the interview, we can ask parents or teachers tell me what your child likes, or tell me what your students like. Alright? So that's the interview. We can also directly ask your client, okay, well, what do you like? Okay? So you are questioning them. And then we have this free operand. In free operand, we are observing their natural environment when the toys and other items are freely available. So as you observe, and then you see that the child is playing with puzzles, and then you go, okay, well, I guess, they like to play with puzzles. Right? So that's free operand. And then we have trial base, which is testing the individual. And in trial base, there is single stimulus, pair stimuli, and multiple stimuli. Alright, so let's start with the single stimulus. Okay, so for single stimulus, you provide one item at a time and then check how long they play with it. So for example, you provide a slinky, okay, and then this child plays with it for 2 minutes. And then you take it away, and then now you provide a Play-Doh, and then the child plays with the Play-Doh for 20 minutes. Now you kind of know that this child likes Play-Doh more, right? And then the pair stimuli, now you are providing 2 items and check which one they pick. So here I have a Spider-Man figurine and Legos. Well, which one do you want? So you present 2 items, right? Then we have the multiple stimuli. Here we are providing multiple items and then we check which one they pick. So maybe we can put toys in the box or toys in the bag, and then we show the toys to them, and you go hey, which one do you want? Okay. So this is preference assessment. Now, how about the functional behavior assessment? Okay, or we sometimes call this FBA. The FBA studies why the target behavior occurs, and they conduct various tests. Okay, and then you actually don't have to know how to conduct this assessment, because BCBA or your supervisor should be the one responsible to conduct it and write the report. However, while your supervisor is conducting it, they may ask you to run some tests with your clients. For example, they may say things like, well, every time the child screams, and then you will give them attention by saying, is everything okay? Right? Or maybe they say, when the client starts hitting themselves, and then you will give them a break. Okay? When your supervisor tells you the procedure, and then there's a purpose to it, so please make sure that you follow through with their directions. And of course, if you're not sure, just talk to them and ask them questions. Well, that's it for the task B. Please see the other videos in my channel that covers the rest of the tasks, but I hope you find this video useful. Even though I recorded this video without visuals, If you are a visual learner, I published a book called ABA Visual Language. In this book, you may study the ABA terms by looking at illustrations. And then you can find this book on Amazon, so please take a look at it if you are interested in. Well, thank you for listening and hope to see you soon again.